So we'll give everybody a little time to hop in. I like to give
Yeah,
everybody 1 or 2 minutes, and then we could.
yeah. It's like when I do presentations at trade shows, we wait a little while before we get started.
Totally.
Are you going to be going to the Las Vegas show?
I am. Are
Hey,
you?
good. Yeah, oh yeah, I'm speaking on Sunday.
So I will be there.
Hey, fantastic. Please come by. We'll also be sharing a trade booth with Integrated Aesthetics. That's Millicent Russo's company, a wonderful person. And we're sharing a booth because we don't want to be forced to be at the booth the whole show. We'd like to move around, so they'll be there with us. And we also have an assistant.
Oh my gosh, extractions is probably such a huge topic in the group because everybody wants to know how to get the juicy ones out, and then what do you do after? Like,
So shall we have a question format in this then, or do you want me to just speak? Because we'll be talking about both the extractor, I suppose, and also the new products that we have that support extraction.
totally. So I thought we can just go ahead. You can speak, talk about extractions, and then at the end we'll do a little Q&A.
Okay, yeah.
But you might get a lot of questions while you're speaking.
And no worries. I'm happy to have them. Are you going to voice the questions?
I thought we were just going to talk about like the new products and the extractor.
Okay. Yeah.
Because there's so many questions on the extractor.
Sure. And when those questions come in, how will I know them?
You'll see them pop up on the screen, or I can also ask them to you.
Okay. Yeah. Fantastic.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm so excited. Today we're going to be doing the art of extractions. You guys are more than welcome to ask questions. I'm sure there's so many to be asked. And yeah, let's get started.
Okay, well, welcome everyone. I'm sure more people will be popping in. My name is Douglas Preston. I'm a licensed esthetician, like most of you, now in my 42nd year of practice and my retirement year from practice. I'm still going to be an educator. We'll have products and services available to the profession, but my client days of serving clients will come to an end, sadly, but kind of necessary. It's been a long time, so one day you all will be there. One of the hallmarks of my career has been a tool that many of you probably know about, and that is the Preston Comedone extractor. Now, give you a good look at it again if you haven't seen this guy before. See if we can get the name up in there as well. There we are. This tool is the result of my own frustration in my second year of aesthetics, trying to get out impacted material in the skin, particularly the neck, under the jawline, ears, and so forth. That's hard to reach. Closed comedones being particularly difficult. And none of the tools available then, which are the same ones that we have today, nothing's changed, worked very well for that. You know, maybe the loop would, pull out a few things, the cup and hole, if you squeeze it down, that will get some things that are ready to come out, sure. But they're a little inefficient, particularly in super soft tissue. Without going into all of the details of how I developed this device, what really is important, if you can see that, is the little hooked end there. I don't know if that's coming across. This tool has a bit of an edge on it. And this is a pressure tool, by the way, guys. So if you're worried about whether or not your state will allow it, this is not a cutting tool, not a piercing tool. It is a pressure tool. So when you're using it, if you can see this, you are putting pressure around a follicle, and the pressure transfers underneath the follicle. This was my goal, is to have a lifting effect on the comedone, rather than squeezing or squishing down on it, which doesn't work all that well. So this tool, which has to be used differently in different parts of the face, so like on the forehead, we get pressure from the backbone, but from the temples down, cheek, chin, neck, all of this, we have to use a pinching motion. I can't demonstrate that for you here because I don't have a client, But if you look on my YouTube channel, which is Preston Skin Center, go there, Preston Skin Center, you'll see many, many demos of this tool in use, some even provided by users themselves. And I would like you to see that. So anyway, this tool is now, which was a sleeper for many years, has really blown up since social media. We sell thousands of them a year, and we sell them internationally as well. So it's been quite successful. It's also indestructible, which is kind of, for me, the worst thing about it, because you almost never need to replace one, and everybody in business hopes that their tools wear out so that you can buy more. It's very, very a very powerful device. So all you have to do is clean it with a little fingernail brush or a toothbrush, and some hot water. Pop it into your high heat autoclave if you have one for about an hour, and then drop it into your wet sanitizer. The solution will not affect this. It won't rust. It doesn't wear out, and you can leave it in there forever till you need it. I keep quite a few in my sanitizer, about 7 of them, but everybody who has this tool generally has 2 of them. The reason being is that you want to be able to clean one between visits, and mine are in use all day long, or if it should happen to fall out of your hands or off onto the floor while you're practicing, you need another one. And oh, someone says if we don't have an autoclave, you don't have to have an autoclave. Most of the years I've used this guy, I haven't. I've never had any problems with this tool. I've never left a mark, never created an infection. And we're talking about many tens of thousands of applications to the skin in acne, and even people who have dry skin get congestive follicles. So it's not necessary, but you can find them for about $90 on Amazon, little high heat autoclave. So they're very inexpensive, and it's just a good idea to have one. So let's talk about extractions a little bit before I go into our support products. Oh, by the way, I want to give you a little heads up here. Preston Skin Center, which is what I've been operating my acne business under for many years, we're changing. So we're possibly this week, I think it's going to be more next week, we're launching a new identity, which is called Preston Acne Pros. You might want to write that down. And our website will be prestonacnepros.com. And there, it'll be an acne-centric resource. So all about acne, various types of acne, tools, classes, training, coaching, and other things. And we'll be adding more to that as time goes along. I'm also going to be creating a directory for people who have taken our certification program, our Preston Congestive Acne Certification Program, which you'll see on that website, but also our current website, which is PrestonSkinCenter.com. If you go to that website, Preston Skin Center, when you go to the landing page, that is actually my skincare business. So look in the menu bar for skincare professionals, drop that down, and you'll see everything else that we do. That is eventually going to become Preston Acne Pros, but you can see our classes and our tools and so forth in there. So quite a bit there for you. So for those of you who are treating acne or are acne specialists, and some people do specialize in acne alone, the extraction process is really key. Now, when I'm talking about extractions being important, this is particularly true when we're dealing with bacteria-based acne. I'm not talking so much about true hormonal acne. And when you see that kind of acne, and it's particularly evident in females, you're going to see lesions, kind of flat lesions, usually localized around the mouth and the neck. And a lot of times you'll see these little white kind of legacies from where people have scratched at them because they tend to be a little itchy, certainly annoying. And if you're under stress, then you're going to work those a little bit. But what you may not see are hardly any impacted follicles. So this is a little more of an internal issue. can be cyclical if we're talking about the influence of elevated hormones during menses, but also in periods of high stress. Now that normally will balance out in a little while, but for some people, particularly if their stress level is high, then they're going to experience acne quite a bit. Congestive acne is the focus for my practice and also what I teach. And this is where we have a sebaceous plug in the follicle. We call it a blackhead, but can be a closed comedone as well. And so we have sebum buildup, we have epithelial matter, bacteria is beginning to proliferate in the follicle. And if a person is sensitive to that, then we're going to see inflammation, possibly a rupture in the follicular lining, bacteria escaping into the skin itself, past the stratum corneum, and then the body will attack that and you get an infection and a pustule. But also, if we're dealing with just blackheads themselves and closed comedones where you don't have inflammation, that is actually not really acne. That is what I call an aesthetic problem, meaning that it's visually unpleasant, but there's no infection or maybe a tiny bit of inflammation, but it doesn't look good. And it can create an uneven texture on the skin. It's not very attractive. And so we want to remove that as well. And we see that again on people with dry skin. The extractor is excellent for that purpose. Several of the benefits of this tool, one is that it can be used on any area where you have congested follicles, and for any type really. So it's wonderful for that. It's also very fast. So if you're dealing with, let's say, inflamed acne, where congestion in the follicle is at the root of it, then the more material you can take out of that skin per treatment, the quicker your client is going to clear up. So we want to get ahead of the bacteria cycle by removing the trapped debris in the follicle, and this will help you do that very, very rapidly. It's also more comfortable than most of the methods of squeezing on the skin. It's different people report different discomforts. Some people will find it more difficult on the that's my partner there putting my phone in the room. I got to make sure that that's turned off. And so it will create a little bit of discomfort, but that's manageable by talking to your clients about what you're going to do, how that might feel, putting them in charge of it, and then introducing it a little bit, see how they work with it. And if it works fine for them, then you can proceed. But it's been a revolutionary device, and almost any esthetician who's ever purchased it really sings its praises. And so I highly encourage you to consider getting one. It's a very, very good investment in your career. Now, over the time that we've been selling this, excuse me, I have a little bit of allergies today, so I'm just going to do that. Thank you. We've been asked about preparation of the skin prior to doing extractions. Now, up till recently, we've just said, follow your own protocol. Naturally, we want to get the skin moistened. We want to get it warm. We want to try to soften the opening to the follicle if possible, and get a little moisture down into the follicle so we get better slip. Exfoliation is great for that. But people have often asked me about desincrustation lotions. We just haven't produced one. There's a number of them out there that you can try, but we finally caved in and decided to go ahead and produce our own version of this. So one of these is Preston, we call it Extraction Ease Prepping Solution. This is an enzyme-based solution. It can be used on its own or in conjunction with our Extraction Ease exfoliating mask. This is about a 7-minute process. So after you've cleansed the skin thoroughly, you would then take your prepping solution. And if you're going to use this on its own, which you can do, then you would put this on a cotton pad, apply it pretty liberally to the skin where you're going to be working, and steam that for about 5 minutes. The enzymes will help break down the corneodesmosomes, or the bonds between the dead skin cells, to loosen all of that up and to make the extraction process a little bit easier. You'll get a little less blockage. The mask portion of this, which you would then use the solution as an activator, about maybe a little under a teaspoon of this, and just enough of this to a product to make it a little spreadable paste, which you could then use a fan brush or a regular masking brush. Put that on and steam it for about 5 to 7 minutes. Now, if you're not using a steamer, you can use a damp, moistened towel from your hot towel caddy and place that over the skin. Not too hot, but have that on, and then again, leave that on for about 5 to 7 minutes. Then you want to rinse that thoroughly. Do not neutralize it, so we don't want to use a toner there. This product will raise the pH of the skin to about a 6.5, which then will create a more pliable skin, easier to manipulate. And that helps particularly on your first extraction session with a client, where the comedones have a tendency to be stickier and really grip the follicular wall. This really helps that slide out much easier. And then in future visits, then any follicle that you are re-extracting from, if it happens to fill again, is much easier to do. So that's how that works. So these are using proteolytic enzymes to break down the bonds between keratinized skin cells, and you just get a nice effect from that. Also, it helps for skin that's a little scaly or even dry. It creates a nice, much smoother texture on the skin. And then you can then proceed from that. So you don't even have to use this for acne clients. You can use it as a mild exfoliation treatment or virtually anybody. So that's kind of how that works. By the way, I will be speaking at the Las Vegas trade show coming up. I have a class on Sunday called How to Succeed as an Acne Therapist. I think that's what that's called. That'll be Sunday at noon. And you can attend that and ask questions there. We'll also have a trade booth where we will have some of this product and extractors. That trade booth number is, let's see if I remember this right, but I think it's 1169. We don't have a big display because we're there really just to service the people that have been in our program, but we will be there. And we'd love to meet you, of course. If you have any questions about your acne practice, going into acne as a specialty, I'm there to answer questions for you, and I'll give you the straight story. It's a wonderful profession, and certainly one that I feel still has a strong future. I don't think artificial intelligence will replace us very soon. So that's kind of the in and out of it. So if you have questions for me, I would love to answer them for you. And by the way, if we do have another extraction class coming up, our extraction courses, which are hands-on, is called Mastering the Art of Comedone Extractions. And we have them in Northern California at Preston Skin Center. We will continue to, even after I retire from practice. We have one coming up in Los Angeles, but that sold out months ago. And our next one will be September. We had one just last Sunday. The next one will be September 17th. Normally I would have 10 to 12 people in these classes, but I found that it's better to have fewer. We get more attention that way. It's a little bit easier to communicate with the students. Plus, my facility is small, so 12 people is a bit of a, we're really stuffed in there, and I prefer to have a smaller number. So now we're going to limit it to 8 students. it fills quickly. So if you're interested in getting in that program, by all means, look at that right away. Again, that is if you go to PrestonSkinCenter.com and look under skincare professionals, you'll see those classes in our store. We also have a certification program, and you can do that entirely online. And that is 2 programs combined together. Our class, whether it's the certification class or the extraction class, that does include 1 Preston extractor. And the links for the certification program are permanent. So you don't have to take the course at any particular time, and you can always review. The certification is a very nice addition to your practice and to your credentials for clients. And of course, the knowledge is invaluable. Many people who come to our program have been certified by other programs, such as Face Reality, which is an excellent company for acne treatment. We offer something a little different in that we combine business and client psychology, sales, and the actual process of treating acne. Someone says here, will you ever have an in-person? I can't quite read the whole thing. In-person, oh, here we go. In other states, we could, we have considered it. The thing is that it's in order for that to be financially feasible for us, because it's 2 days of travel, a lot of setup, we would need to do that in cooperation with another company. We are looking at the possibility of doing this in New York and maybe in Florida and Texas. But we would need at least 12 people. And then, of course, we have to arrange models and so forth. So it's not an easy thing for us to do. But it may become feasible. Right now, it's just easier for us to do this even or at our office in California. So I'm not saying it won't happen. It's just that it's something we're studying right now. Someone asked about the Face and Body Show. Will we be there? No, I just don't attend all those trade shows anymore. I've spoken at everything over the years, but I kind of limit where we appear now. Last time I think was at NASN earlier this year in Tustin, and we'll do Vegas. Beyond that, I'm not sure. Face Body, but we won't appear there. So my apologies if some of you are going to be there. In any event, yeah, so that's who we are. So remember, look for Preston Acne Pros, and it's very possible we will be adding an actual acne home use line in the future. We haven't decided to do that. You know, when you're trying to retire, it's talking about doing less work, and I can think of 100 ways to create more work. And you know, at this point, I don't need a second career, but I'm not abandoning what I'm doing either. So let me open this up then for any questions that you might have. And Maria, if you have some yourself, I'd be very happy to answer them.
Yeah, so because one of the things I was so excited about was the new product that you came out to help with extractions. Yes. So what do you recommend to be the protocol? Because a lot of the audience in here are new estheticians. They're learning to like niche themselves, or they're students. So, and again, I called this the Money Making Esthetician Group 1 because I want estheticians to get comfortable making money, because I know that there's a weird view about profit. So 2 of the things would be, how much do you suggest treating? Because everybody's like, well, how do I charge my prices? And obviously it's different everywhere in different states and expertise. But so a brand new esthetician starting or wanting to niche themselves as an acne expert, where do you recommend them putting their price, 1? And then 2, what is the protocol using the new product that you just came out?
Well, that's a whole lot.
That's a whole lot.
and it's all very important.
Right.
I've been preaching making money in aesthetics since I began in this business. And that was in 1981, if you can believe that. The aesthetics business back then was different than it is now and very much like it is now. It's a much bigger industry with a larger client base, but also it's more heavily populated than ever with skincare professionals. There's a lot of us out there that didn't used to be there back in those early days. Making money is key. The only reason I stayed in this profession is because I figured out how to make money in it. If I couldn't do that, I wouldn't be here. I would be in the profession that I was originally going to enter, and that was behavioral psychotherapy. But I can make more money, honestly, as an esthetician than most therapists do. One of the reasons is that we retail and they tend not to. So there's that sideline. Plus, we also don't give gratuities to our therapists usually. Bottle of wine maybe, or some chocolates. Beyond that, no. And so in making money in aesthetics, the question is not so much what should I charge, the question is what do I want to earn from whatever I charge. And this is where this is the mistake that most estheticians make. When you're on Instagram or any of the esthetician sites, people are always asking about pricing. What should I charge? It's not a good question, because it's kind of like saying, well, what should I eat tonight? How hungry are you? How much food do you need? What can you afford? It's not just that simple a question. But let's break it down. And let's say if you start with the money that you want to earn as a skincare professional, now hopefully you know what that is. And even then it's a bigger question. Let me give you an idea how I did it, okay? 42 years ago, I entered a profession. I figured I would work at least 35 to 40 years because I like working and I like the profession. I figured I would need a certain amount of money to live the lifestyle I wanted. And I'm kind of a hedonist. I like nice things. So I wanted to be able to live a nice lifestyle. That means different things to different people. I don't have children, so I didn't have to worry about that. So I didn't have to pay for their college or their weddings or any of that. So, keeping it all for me and my wife. But also there is retirement. Now, we all are going to retire one day. And the question is, how much money are you going to need to retire at any age to not have to work or not have to work much and be okay, particularly with inflation? The fact that as you get older, your health costs are going to be very, very heavy. You may live 95 years or more, right? And part of that could be in an intensive care home, which is $100,000 a year right now, maybe more later. So I kind of worked this out, and I thought, okay, here's how much money I need to retire on, whenever that comes. And so I put that number out there. Well, in order to live the way I wanted and to run my business, which independent business, and to put away a certain amount of money a year, which would add to a certain amount at the end by retirement with interest, if all goes well, I knew the number. So I had to start out by pricing my services to achieve that. This is more math than most people ever want to deal with, but it's super important. Therefore, I recommend that you talk to a financial advisor about your future. But so if you just price to try to attract a customer, or you price according to what everybody else is charging, that has nothing to do with you. It has nothing to do with your needs in the end. So knowing what I want, first of all, people will often say, well, in our area, we can't get that much money. We can't charge a certain price. I have a piece of advice for that person. Move. My business is in Los Gatos, California, because that's where the money is. This is the heart of Silicon Valley. People are wealthy there. They have disposable income. I'm not going to be in a small town where people don't want what I have, and hopefully at the end of my career have enough money to do the things I want. It might be cheaper to live there, but hey, you know what? You still got to make a living, and you still have to retire one day. This is the reason people emigrate to the United States, right? I mean, they leave their country, they take great risks to sneak into the country in many cases because, I mean, let's face it, that's a big risk thing to do, but they are hoping for more than where they're at. And all we have to do is move to a town, or at least locate our practice in a town that, has more wealth than the community that we're in. So if you really want it, you're going to have to make a sacrifice to some degree to get it. And the other thing is to know what you need to charge. So here's the deal with me. With my acne treatments, I charge $185 for a 45-minute treatment. Sometimes it doesn't even take 45 minutes. The initial one is about an hour with a consult in there. So it's $205 I charge for that. That's a one-time thing. I don't usually, in fact, I never show the gratuity screen from my Square terminal for my acne clients. And the reason being is that in my practice anyway, people consider acne work more clinical. And so in that regard, I price for what I want, and I don't put up a gratuity screen, but we do quite a significant amount of retail. For anti-aging treatments, yeah, sure, it's there. But so if you're going to be working with teenage acne in particular, which is probably 80% of my acne clientele, and I try to make it a little family friendly, but in my area, these families have quite a bit of money. I mean, practically everybody's in private school, and they travel all the time. And if they have a tiny little house that's worth millions of dollars, so they should have a little bit to spend on me if they value what I do. As far as protocols go, my protocols are very, very simple. My acne treatments are really informal. There's no gown or anything they put on. My acne clients come in, they lie down on the lounge, kick their shoes off if they want. And most of those treatments involve a cleansing with a salicylic cleanser, an exfoliator, which of course I use my own products now for that, our acne control system, some steam, lots of extractions, because pretty much everything I do is congestive acne. And I spend as much time extracting on the skin as I can. You will hear these statements, and I don't know where they come from, quite honestly, about, well, you shouldn't extract more than 15 minutes. Who came up with that? I've been doing extractions 30 and 40 minutes my whole career, and I haven't seen any negative consequences from that. Now, if you don't know what you're doing, or the method that you're using is pretty crude, yeah, I'd say the sooner you stop, the better. But with the tool that I have, you can go for it. So long as your client is in agreement with this, right? You don't want to do it to them, you do it with them. So I extract, and I get a lot out of that skin, usually save it up on a tissue so I can show my client, what the benefit was of what they paid for. After that, very often I'm using a toner, some high frequency, benzoyl peroxide if that's what they're on, or possibly acne correct hydrator or sunscreen if the day calls for that, and they're out the door. Little lip balm for my teens, little eye cream for my older clients, done. Because my treatments are focused on the benefit that the client expresses to me in our initial consultation that they're there for. Clear up that skin. And if it's congestive, inflamed acne, extractions are at the root of this thing. So we need to have that done. And that's it. Do I apply a mask for the client afterwards? Almost never. Do I do an LED treatment? If there's time, most often there isn't. Also, by the way, after the extractions, I cool that skin down quite a bit. You can use either your ice globes for that. I use a lot of cold water to try to, to reduce some of the heat and edema and erythema. And then out they go. The results are phenomenal. Someone asked if I use gauze with high frequency. No, I lay that glass right on the skin. It's gauze, you can use it because it creates a tiny bit of a spark gap, but you can do that manually. And it's just one more step and one more cost. Everybody has their own way of doing treatments. I have simplified this as much as possible, 1, to control costs, 2, to maximize time. And it's all based on the result, right? Well, the results I get is fantastic. And if that's the case, I'm going to stick with that. I don't have any problems with clients saying, this just isn't working for me. Now, in acne, from time to time, not often, but sometimes, you're going to find that you just cannot get it under control. Typically, it's because, at least in my experience, typically it's because the client is simply not complying. In other words, they're not using their home care properly. They're not coming in often enough. Now, I don't have an argument with that. My job is not to make people do anything. If they pick their skin, that's their business. If they aren't using the products according to instruction and they're not getting the results, that's their problem. It's not mine. My job is to analyze, to instruct, give the best advice I can, do the best service I can, not to nag people, not to pick on them, not to make them sign contracts that they're going to do everything I say or I won't see them. No, I will see them regardless. I keep this practice easy for people to use. And if clients are not getting the results that they want, and you can see that they're not following through, you just make that clear. You can do that in a nice way. But we don't punish, we don't nag. I don't anyway. And then secondly, with that, there are some cases of acne for some reason I just can't get to the bottom of. Now, when we're looking at examples on websites of people's acne work, or on Instagram or TikTok, and they're showing you these miraculous before and afters, what you don't see are the skins that they can't get under control. And we all have that. And if someone says, oh, no, never in my case, I'm not going to believe it. Because in all the years I've worked with acne cases, thousands of them, thousands, sometimes you just can't get ahead of it. And that is where medical intervention is probably the best approach. I don't recommend it because I'm not a physician, but I can say maybe in the last 12 years, I've had 3 or 4 clients who, no matter what I did, I could not control their acne. They were all males and they were all not very good with their home care. They knew it, I knew it, their mom knew it. Again, no nagging, I'm no shaming. But if we get to a point where I feel that my work is a waste of their time, ethically speaking, I'm going to say it. I'm going to lose that client for sure, but I have to say it because I'm not being helpful. And particularly if the extractions are not comfortable, even if they're willing to come back to me over and over again, which has been the case, sometimes I'm not willing to work with them. I don't know. It's just how I feel. I can't do it. So in very, very rare cases, I've sent people on to find alternative services. And of course, for me, I was the alternative service. So perhaps, some medical treatments will work better for them. Someone asked for high frequency, do I recommend a neon or a violet light? I use the neon orange light. Yeah, I have that. I find that works, quite well. And I treat specific lesions, of course, and then overall. I've never found high frequency to be the end all. In fact, I've done a lot of experimentation on the skin where I've used high frequency just on half of the face and the other. It hasn't ever made that big a difference. But it's a good backup and a secondary defense against bacteria. It's also a vasoconstrictor, so it will reduce some of the redness, and that's nice as well. But But that's been my experience. And by the way, friends, when I give my experience, it is not advice. I don't give people any advice. I give point of view. Advice assumes that the way that you're being advised is probably correct or could be correct. I have no idea how my methods will work for someone else because I'm not in control of that. So what I try to do is give you perspective that my experience with all of these clients, all of these years, all ages, all ethnicities, all genders, has for the vast majority of the time produced a really positive result. And if you go on my, again, on my website, you'll see some of the before and afters on there. As I said earlier, what we don't see are the cases where the esthetician or the skincare clinic didn't get those results. I'm not going to post that, of course, but you need to know that that is possible. You may not be able to correct that acne condition, and you also need to accept that. Your customer does. So when I get a new client and we do the consult, I let them know that I'm not guaranteeing that I can get to the bottom of this acne condition. I'll do my best, and our experience in the past has been very positive, but not 100% of the time, nor will any physician for that matter, right? They're not going to say, oh yeah, we'll cure that up in no time. No, they give advice, write a prescription or perform a procedure, and then you see what happens. There's no difference with us. So I don't ever feel like I'm on the hook or I'm obligated to correct a condition that's been brought to me. I will do my best. And my experience says I probably can have a positive effect on it. If not, get to the bottom of it, but I can't cure it. And so, so for those of you who are concerned about that with your customers, don't worry, be honest about that. And that's all your clients are going to ask for. They just want to know what you think. And if you think that you could quite possibly have a good result with what they're doing, that's great. But remember, the products may not work for them. They may not work the products. They may not come in often enough. And there may be something going on there that's way out of our control, such as hormonal activity, right? And we all know the things that affect that. So whether it's stress, oral contraception, menses, and many other things. So we don't have to make promises. All we have to do is just do our best. And so I want to give you a sense of relief there as you come into this profession. All the years that I've been doing acne treatments and all the people, I have never once, including people who were very slow to make progress, and some of them are, I've never once had anyone ever say to me or anyone else that his work doesn't work. It's never happened. No one's ever said, we've come to you a dozen times, we don't look things aren't looking any better. If that would ever be the case, I would know what it was, which is either that they're not following through, or my methods are not working for them. And that's honest in both cases. So I know that for many people, there is that concern about what will happen if we're not if we're not getting the results that we hope for. But you can kind of relax on that. You'll be all right. Regarding extractions, I'm going to wheel back to that. Many people will say to me, well, we didn't get extraction training in aesthetic school, and they feel pretty upset about that. Let me tell you something quickly about that thing, is that licensing schools, their job is to get us to pass our state board exams. And if they aren't successful there, they lose their accreditation. So licensing schools keep their curriculum pretty close to what state board will require of us in order to pass. And extractions isn't on the test. That's just not part of it. Also, the schools are reluctant to have us do things as students that might possibly cause a problem, whether it is a, an issue with, infection or damaging the skin, or driving away the customer, because remember, the beauty school wants facial customers because they make money on that too. And so they're going to stay away from extractions, and honestly, I support that. I don't think that that's an area where they should be going deeply into. Perhaps in lecture, maybe a demo, but training you on that, it's mostly not going to happen. Postgraduate schools, such as my own trainings, that's where we go, because you're ready for it at that point. And you're not going to be tested on it except in your practice, right? So you better get that part right. But that is what's happening. It is normal not to feel confident in extractions. And most people who come to my programs, that's really what they're looking for. They want to feel confident. And if I'm teaching anything in extractions, and particularly the use of this tool, it is the positioning of the tool for various parts of the skin, exactly how to hold it, how to use a two-handed method in soft tissue, and how to apply enough pressure. And if I'm, and it's kind of funny when I'm working with students, because I'm constantly saying, push harder on that skin, and their hands shaking, and they're like, oh, I just do it, just keep pushing. And the models that I use are very experienced. They're acne clients of mine who sign up as models because they get a free treatment, like 2 hours of extractions, right? But and they will tell my students, you're not pushing hard enough. you can push harder, because they know they're experienced with it. So while it's going to create some discomfort, the customer's there for results, and it's just a matter of time before you finally get there. But usually every student I have, when we're doing this with the hands-on part, they finally get that aha moment where the pressure will finally produce the release of the embedded material, and particularly deep closed comedones, which is so hard to get out. And then it's like, wow, the sky opens, the sun comes out. Suddenly, it's a whole new world. And then it's reflected in the reviews that we get for that class. It's like, oh my God, I just felt like a whole new person now. I just can't wait to go back to my practice and use this thing, because now they know how to do it and how the client will respond. So yeah. So anyway, if you're not confident with extractions, I highly recommend taking our course, whether it is the online version or preferably the in-person one, because they're just things that you'll learn there because it's tactile that you can't quite get out of the online program. So I said a lot. Maria, how are we doing here?
Good. I'm paying attention. A lot of good stuff for sure.
Yeah.
I love that you've mastered just the business side as well, because I feel like, myself included, kind of complicated a little bit when you're like, which is why I want to specialize in acne, because I do feel like obviously it is more of a profit and less things that you need in your back bar.
It can and cannot be more profitable. One of the advantages of acne as a practice, and you mentioned it yourself, it is not equipment. It's not heavily dependent upon equipment. It's pretty manual. So there's a lot of machinery you don't need, and a lot of back bar products you don't need. It is not that easy a service to upgrade, so you don't have that advantage. The retail is good, but it's fairly limited, particularly if you're dealing with teenagers who may or may not even use the products, right? Boys in particular, right? 2-3 products, man, that's it. You maxed it. I mean, you have to use a gun to get them into the shower until they're 18.
That's funny.
They just don't want to be bothered with this stuff, right? And I know that, and I talk to them about it. We're pretty good humored about that sort of thing. On the other hand, every year, millions of kids reach puberty, and if they're going to have acne, it's going to start to show up then. The downside of acne as a profession is that the acne client has only one goal, and that is to not be an acne client anymore. So, so we have to reharvest that client group over and over again. And usually what I find is about, around the time they go to college, if in your area, everyone goes like they do in my area, so I lose a lot of clients, the universities harvest them away. They'll still buy product. And during the school breaks, they oftentimes, not all the time, but oftentimes will come back and grab a treatment, right? Thanksgiving, Christmas time, and spring break. But I don't have them on that frequency that I used to. And also typically about that time, most of them are starting to clear up. So the need is not as acute as it was originally. And so you got to get more and more and more. Anti-aging clients, they can last years and years. In fact, if she books this month, my longest term acne client will have been coming to me for 42 years. Imagine.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a long time. She's in her 80s now. She still comes. She used to come monthly. Now it's like every few months. But many of them have been coming to me over 30 years. No acne clients. Occasionally an acne client will become an anti-aging client, but it's not something that you should count on. Their kids might, and I have that. Now they're an adult and their kids are teenagers. If you've been around long enough, and suddenly their kids have what they used to have when you first met them. So you get some recycle there. Also with acne, if your parents are hanging around watching you do the treatments, as mine often are, eventually the mom might say, hey, what can you do for me? And then you get them that way. But that's a small percentage. The good thing about acne and anti-aging as a focus for your practice is that so far, neither one of them are curable. And so we're going to get acne, we're going to age, right? So while we can combat that while it's happening, aging, you're going to have, usually with aging clients, there's just a point where they just don't give a damn anymore. It's like, oh, hell, I don't care what I look like. I'm just glad to be alive, right? And they stop. That's why nobody markets anything to old people except incontinence devices and medications. They don't buy anything anymore. I'm seeing it firsthand because I'm 70 now, and there's nothing more I want to buy. So marketing is usually not for me. Although I just got an invitation for a free lunch for early cremation talk. So, this is the kind of marketing I get now. Right? They know who I am. But for anti-aging, it's great because there is a lot of upgrading of your treatments, much broader range of products. But at the same time, I find that I can concentrate my acne clients in smaller periods of time. And it's just a simpler operation. So, it's up to you, but a price according to what you need. And again, if you're not sure about that, I have a course online called the $100,000 Esthetician, which is the minimum of what you should hope to make. And you can purchase that in my store. And I'll tell you, that'll give you the exact plan for planning your career and making money on it. So by all means, we need to get our money-making minds in, as you know, that's Maria's focus here. She's doing a good job herself. So pay attention to the numbers, guys, and so that you get that as well as clients. So, okay. I gave you a lot in this time, and I think we're wrapping up soon, right, Maria?
Correct. I want to give everybody a little chance to ask questions.
Yes.
Now is the time.
Estheticians have a tendency not to ask a lot of questions, especially in my classes. So please do try to overcome that disinclination to ask a question. This is a valuable time for you. And hey, guys, you're getting this for free. I charge for this stuff. So
thank you so much. And that's what I'm trying to get across. I was like, you guys, he does charge for this. This is his expertise. Like, so many people are like, I'm having business like problems in my business. I want business. I did a poll. Everybody said business building. I'm like, you guys ask away, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And again,
I have a question.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. So will I be still offering mentoring after I stop practicing? Yes. And you'll see that on my new website, Preston Acne Pros. I will do one-on-one coaching for you. Happily, I really enjoy that. And it's really a life-changing experience because I'll give you the right perspective for how to run your practice so that you can make it worth your while. I have to tell you, the average esthetician is not going to end up with much money at the end of their career. Those are the ones who actually stay in the practice all this time. And I know this firsthand because I have coached so many people. And it's not just, are you busy? It's how much money is left over after taxes, after expenses, after your lifestyle. And you need to have that money. For those of you who are in your 20s and 30s right now, do you know how much money you're going to need to retire on? And I mean, this is after Social Security. You're probably going to need, if we look at the next 30 years, you're going to probably need about $3 million saved. $3 million. Now I can get away with $1.5 million right now because of Social Security and side income that I will still have. You're going to need a lot more than that. So if you figure, okay, geez, if I've got 30 years to work, I'm going to have to save $100,000 a year, 100 grand in your savings. Now, of course, you're going to put that into accounts that grow, but still, you probably better figure at least 200,000 to get that 3 million. That's a big number. So you have to start now to get that going for that point. Someone said, worried about pressing too hard on really soft, moist skin, causing further injury. You know what? Experiment. I have never damaged the skin, and nobody that I know has ever caused any permanent damage on any skin using my tool. You can, certainly, but it hasn't done it yet. And I am, I'll tell you, I'm aggressive with that thing. So it's more going to be your building confidence. And part of that confidence building is overcoming your fears about creating injury. So certainly a good idea to be cautious, but push the envelope a little bit, push the envelope. And I think you'll find, like I have in all of my followers, that it's not a high risk. Someone's saying, what is a good advice and tips for new estheticians trying to start their own business? Oh man, that is a big one. I can't do that all in this session. Maria, how about we have another session about business startup?
I love that. You name the date and I will put it on the calendar.
It's a huge subject, and part of what I talked about already about knowing how much money you make is at the core of this thing. So forgive me, I'm not going to escape that subject. It's one of my favorite, and it certainly worked for me. I went into my own business the second year, right at the end of my second year, being an esthetician, and not because I wanted to, but because I worked for 2 different companies that just couldn't get out of their own way. They found every way possible to make their businesses miserable, and I didn't want to repeat that. So I'll tell you my business story in that class. So we'll do that in the future. Okay, Maria?
Perfect. Thank you.
Someone said the products I mentioned before treatment and after treatment, do I sell these products? Yes, we do. These are available on my website. So again, PrestonSkinCenter.com. They're called Extraction Ease Acne Control System. So there's the prepping solution, and then there is the exfoliating mask. And you would use the prepping solution as an activator for the mask. And they're wonderful. They just work wonderfully. So if you go into PrestonSkinCenter.com, look at the menu bar, look for skincare professionals, drop down and go into the store, you will see these guys here. And we have a kit also where it's a kit that has 2 Preston extractors and these guys, and it's priced. Yeah, there you go, Maria. Yeah, the ultimate toolkit. There it is. But you can also buy individual extractors and pairs of extractors. I don't believe I have this kit available with your discount, Maria, but
No.
individual items, the extractors we do. Okay,
Right.
that's simply because we price this to be as comfortable as possible for estheticians, but we didn't have a lot of room for discounting, so forgive me. However, I will tell you guys, I think the Pro 10 discount works there on that, but try that. So we'll see if that works. If you in the discount code, try Pro 10 for this kit. I can't. We just put this up. I can't remember if I allowed that one or not. That might be expired, but anyway. But the products in that kit are already discounted, so that's why we didn't do it. There was a discount already applied, so it's really a good way to go. Oh yes, I will have these products at the Las Vegas show. Definitely, that'll be there. And I really do hope you attend our class. That's going to be great. Someone asked about cleansers, the cleansers I use, and after extractions. I don't use a cleanser after the extractions, but afterwards, as I said, I use a cold water, a toner, salicylic toner is fine, or a calming toner, which is good after extractions. And then again, benzoyl peroxide, if that's what's needed, or acne correct hydrator. Whatever you guys use, that's already appropriate. I don't have a product available post-treatment, so at least not yet. That may come one day. Someone says, oh, there you are, Maria. That's your comment. So yeah, good. This has been fun.
And any more questions? I know somebody said I have a question, but then she didn't finish. I want to make sure we answer her.
Oh, okay, sure, absolutely. Yeah, this has been nice. I've been doing interviews, boy, all week. And there's more to come. Yeah, they're fun to do. I really like sharing information. So yes, when I retire, it is just strictly from practice. It will not be from the industry as a whole. I'll still be around. Yeah, I got to have something to do, and I don't golf. So I can't retire.
What is the youngest age you have treated?
Generally 12 years old. I have done facials on clients younger than that, but not acne treatments. And the reason being, they were usually European, and the moms wanted to get their daughters introduced to this type of self-care that's much more common in Europe than in America. And so I've done, little, hydration treatments and so forth, just to give them the sense of what that's like. It's really sweet to do. There's almost nothing you can really do to them, but they like it. So, you just give them, a nice mask, and they're pretty happy. It's something that they can put on TikTok. But yeah, but usually 12, it's starting to lower because puberty is beginning to happen earlier and earlier. And remember, once the sex hormones begin to circulate in the body, then the sebaceous glands mature and they start producing sebum. And if that individual is going to have a problem with the reaction to acne bacteria, which is feeding on that sebum in an anaerobic environment, they're going to start showing up with small pimples and congestion. So, but 12 is usually when we begin to see the early onset of puberty. But I've seen it as early as 10, but I generally don't work on a client that young. Anything else here? I've given you a lot.
There's one more. Yes, I asked you the reason my son is only 9 and started to show blackheads.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. So one of the problems with teenagers is their diet. You know, diet is not everything in acne. And to be quite honest, when it comes to teenagers, the last thing I try to do is control their diet. You know, we reach for that because, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, you can't have this, you can't have that, you can't have dairy. And, you know, the big problem, the biggest problem for teenagers is sugar and salt. Salt, if it has iodine in it, because that stimulates the sebaceous glands. The sugar creates a inflammation favorable environment in the body, right? So we have these two things. And then, of course, there's hormones in the dairy and sometimes also salt. You know, sugar and salt, that's a teenager's diet. They live on that stuff, right? And so it's very, very hard to control that. Every now and then you'll have an enlightened teenager who actually doesn't do it. But even they, well, then you're like, well, I can't take that away from you. You know, you still have an acne problem. Family history is usually involved in there somewhere. And occasionally, and well, I shouldn't say occasionally, very often, it's experimentation, particularly in females who see all these temptations on social media and they try it. Very, very often that goes wrong. So as you know, with acne, we have a narrow range of choices that work for that type of skin. And the internet is full of misinformation, well, largely driven by people who either want to be popular or getting paid by a cosmetic producer. So we have to be careful about that. But in any event, yeah, so that you're seeing pimples and some blackheads starting at 9, not surprising at all.
I want to.
Okay, anybody else? Preston has another appointment, so.
Thank you. Okay.
You're welcome, guys. And thank you so much for taking the time today. I know this is a work day for many of you, and I hope this has been worth your while. Again, please check out my website and also look next week for Preston Acne Pros. That's going to be a really nice resource for you and your acne practice. And my focus for the future. So we'll look forward to meeting you there. Okay. And please, if you're in Las Vegas, please drop by and say hello. I'm a friendly guy, and I always and sharing information is important to me if you have questions. So don't be afraid to approach me. I'm very receptive.
Thank you so much. And maybe we can do it in like July or August.
Yeah, happily.
Yay. Okay. Well, thank you, everybody. Again, subscribe to the newsletter. It's already pinned to the top. In the newsletter, I'm also going to share all your links. Easy. But if you guys want to rewatch it now, it's already pinned to the top of the group. So thank you.
Thank you as always. Okay. And good luck, everybody, with your practices. I can't wait to hear how you're doing.
Yay. Bye-bye.
Bye.